Hi, everybody. Welcome to our presentation. My name is Vince Lalonde. I'm with PACE Immigration Associates and Advisors here in Toronto. It's so nice to be able to connect with you through this virtual format. We're very pleased and thankful of BLS for holding this event and allowing us to meet our friends in Africa without being able to actually physically travel to Africa at this time. We hope to be able to see all of you soon here in Canada or in Africa. We travel frequently to Africa. I'll be speaking a little bit more about our strong African presence here at PACE. But ultimately, we would love to be able to welcome you here to Canada, to our offices, to meet with us in person. So hopefully we'll be able to do that soon. I'm optimistic. I'm always an optimist. But in the meantime, I'd like to tell you a little bit about our firm, what we do, who we are, as well as some of the programs that we're involved in. And I'd like to focus more on the Canadian programs because we are today focusing on Canada. And of course, Canada is one of our strengths. It's not the only program that we do, but it's definitely one of our strong suits. So I'm going to be opening up my PowerPoint presentation. So as I mentioned, we are PACE Immigration Associates and Advisors. We're a firm based in Canada, but we're not solely. We have lawyers licensed in Canada, of course. Myself, I'm a lawyer licensed in the provinces of Ontario and British Columbia, which happen to be two of the most popular provinces for new immigrants to Canada. We also have lawyers licensed in the United States. I'll be introducing our US lawyer shortly. And more importantly, perhaps more importantly today, we have a Nigerian lawyer here on staff, and I'll be introducing her as well. And we also have lawyers licensed around the world, other jurisdictions. That's one of the great things about being in Toronto is there are people from all over the world here. So we have, we have connections and friends in practically every part of the globe. So a little bit about our firm. Our firm was established in 1987. That's a very long time, as you know. I think Ronald Reagan was still the president in '87. We're really focused on our clients. That's really the emphasis and the theme here at PACE Law Firm. We have over 120 legal professionals in 6 offices, and we serve clients in over 38 languages. I think we're probably over 40 now. So I think that's a real advantage for our customers, our clients, is that no matter what language you speak, we're able to provide you with service here at PACE Law Firm. So I'm going to be putting my email address up shortly. If you would like to write me an email in a language other than English, please feel free to do so. Even if I don't understand your email, I can always find somebody here at the firm who's able to provide you with the information that you're looking for. And another thing I want to mention is that we are a multi-service firm. We're not just an immigration firm. Okay, I think that's very important for clients these days. A lot of clients coming to Canada doing business, you have needs beyond simply immigration. So we're able to provide legal services to our clients in a number of different areas, not just immigration. Myself, there's my email there, vlalonde@paceimmigration.com. I'm a Canadian immigration lawyer. As I mentioned, I'm licensed in Ontario and BC provinces. I'm the director here at PACE Immigration. I've been working in immigration for a number of years, and I've always been focused on business immigration, not just to Canada, but I've also actively worked on a number of different international investment, immigration by investment, and citizenship by investment programs globally, including in Europe and the Caribbean, and now more than ever in the US and Canada as well. So you can see, what do we do here? We do Canadian immigration programs, not just for business people. That's really our strength. But of course, we do a lot of non-business immigration programs. We also do US immigration, as I mentioned. We do alternate citizenship. Okay, so citizenship in the Caribbean, in Europe. We're very active in those programs. We've always felt that the best way to serve our clients is to have a variety of options for them. A lot of clients will come and see us about the Canadian programs, but at the end of the day, after we speak to them and we get a better understanding of their needs and their goals, then sometimes we will recommend an alternative program, maybe a Caribbean passport, maybe US immigration, maybe a golden visa in Europe. But I think that's really one of our strengths, is that we're able to help you with all of those international migration programs. But of course, if you would like to come to Canada at the end of the day, the Canadian programs tend to be a little bit more complicated, a little bit more difficult. But as a Canadian law firm with a real emphasis and focus on those business programs, we're confident that we'll be able to help you with those programs as well. Specifically on the Caribbean side, we are an authorized representative or international marketing agent for several of those citizenship by investment programs in the Caribbean. And we've been active in those programs really since the very beginning. Myself, even before I joined PACE, I've been active in the Caribbean programs since their inception, the first programs that came to market in 2012. And at the same time, PACE has also been involved in those programs since their inception. I mentioned our Nigerian presence. This is our Nigerian Canadian lawyer. Rachel is licensed in Nigeria. She's also licensed in Canada. Rachel is normally based here in Toronto, but she spends a lot of her time in Africa, specifically in Nigeria, meeting our clients. And I think that that's very important for our clients for a few reasons. First of all, by traveling there, by visiting our clients, Rachel never ceases to impress me. She's an amazing lawyer, and she takes the time to go and visit her clients at their place of work, at their homes, and do the due diligence for them on the ground there in Nigeria and Africa. The other reason that's very important, of course, is for confidentiality reasons. We prefer to meet our clients face to face and get an understanding of what they want, get their documents in person, rather than sending everything back and forth through email. Of course, sometimes we still need to use email, but we really have as I mentioned when I was discussing the firm, we really have that client first focus. And Rachel's frequent visits to Africa, where she meets the clients face to face, is really an excellent example of the type of client first service that we provide. A few other team members that I would like to mention. Andy Semichuk, maybe you've heard of him. He's a well-known US and Canadian lawyer. So a lot of people will come and see us about US matters. A lot of our Canadian clients have business in the US. They need to travel to the US frequently. Andy is able to help with any kind of US visa or immigration question that you might have. He's also a columnist for the Forbes magazine. And I would also like to mention my colleague Marwa. Marwa is a regulated Canadian immigration consultant with, I think, close to, many, many years of experience. And Marwa has strong ties in the northern part of Africa. This is an African Virtual Expo, so I'd like to mention that we have a strong presence in Northern Africa as well as Sub-Saharan Africa. So Marwa's originally Egyptian. She has a very strong connections to the Egyptian community, both here in Canada and in Egypt. So, wherever you are in Africa, I think we'll be able to help you and go and meet you and get a better understanding of what you're looking for. Okay, so now I'm going to get a little bit into the Canadian programs. There are a number of Canadian immigration trends that I would like to very quickly mention. One of the trends is that more program choices, and this really started when the federal government, the Canadian government, started to allow provinces to choose their own immigrants. So now every province of Canada, we have 10 provinces and 3 territories. Every province, every territory can choose the immigrants that they want for their province, for their economy, Canada is a very big country. I'm sure you've seen the map. We go all the way from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean. We're the second largest country in the world. Every part of Canada has very different economy, very different needs. So every province has different requirements for their immigration programs. And that's really a good thing for you, because it means that we can find programs that fit you, that fit your background, that fit your requirements, because we have so much choice. Okay, so now I'm going to get a little bit into the Canadian programs. There are a number of Canadian immigration trends that I would like to very quickly mention. One of the trends is that more program choices, and this really started when the federal government, the Canadian government, started to allow provinces to choose their own immigrants. So now every province of Canada, we have 10 provinces and 3 territories. Every province, every territory can choose the immigrants that they want for their province, for their economy. Canada is a very big country. I'm sure you've seen the map. We go all the way from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean. We're the second largest country in the world. Every part of Canada has very different economy, very different needs. So every province has different requirements for their immigration programs. And that's really a good thing for you, because it means that we can find programs that fit you, that fit your background, that fit your requirements, because we have so much choice. Canada is focusing more on entrepreneurs and not so much on investors anymore, even though Canada invented investor immigration in 1986 with my colleague and good friend Jerry Wiener as the Minister of Immigration at that time. Now Canada is more focused on entrepreneurs. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Work visas for entrepreneurs, language skills. So Canada is very focused on people who can speak English or French, which is really a good fit for the African market and the African community, because I believe that French and English are probably the 2 most spoken languages in Africa. So that's one thing that Canada and Africa have in common. We have that colonial past, and we were both, have that colonial connection to the United Kingdom, to England, and also to France. So me personally, my parents lived in Cameroon for several years, and Cameroon, like Canada, is a great example of a country that is English and French. And that's not just Cameroon, of course, it's all across Africa. So that's a really good fit for African clients. Of course, emphasis on English language is a barrier for some clients, particularly clients from the Far East. But for African community, we think it's actually a really positive trend. And of course, the delegation of selection decisions. And that's what I was mentioning before. Provinces, private industry, everybody, a lot of different groups are allowed to pick immigrants now, not just the federal government. Okay, so the one trend that I mentioned that I would like to spend a little bit more time on is more entrepreneurs and fewer investors. So most of the programs that you're going to be learning about at this virtual expo are, I would characterize them as investor programs. So you need to make some kind of a passive investment, for example, in real estate or a government fund or some kind of a government donation. And as a result of that passive investment, you will be granted permanent residence or citizenship, depending on the program. Canada used to have those investor programs. When I first started doing Canadian immigration, when I first got involved in the Canadian immigration market, the programs that we talked about the most were the Quebec Investor Program and the Federal Investor Program. And both of those programs are passive investment programs where clients will simply invest their funds into a government-run fund. Okay, so features of those programs were high personal net worth requirements, high investment requirements, notoriously slow processing times. Depending on the time in history, processing times for those 2 programs have been as high as 6 or 7 or 8 years. But those were kind of the key features of those investor programs. Now Canada has moved away from those investor programs. In fact, the federal investor program has been shut down completely. The Quebec investor program has been suspended, I would say indefinitely. And when it does relaunch, we're not sure exactly what it's going to look like. Probably very different from what it looked like before it was closed down. So now really for business people, the trend is towards what I would call entrepreneur programs. Entrepreneur programs are programs that require you to come to Canada and set up an active business here. Okay, you don't just make a passive investment. You actually have to come to Canada and we say do business here in Canada. Those programs generally require some ongoing day-to-day management. So you need to be the one running your business. You need to be managing it. The focus is not so much on how much money you spend. It's more on job creation. They want you to be able to create job opportunities for Canadians. There's a focus on innovation, innovative business ideas, particularly with the Startup Visa program. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. And also, as I mentioned, language requirements. And finally, an emphasis on, well, the key programs really for the entrepreneur programs are the P&P entrepreneurs. So as I mentioned, the provinces have their own entrepreneur programs. Those programs are very popular. Most provinces have an entrepreneur type of program, not every province, but most do. There are also what I would call work permit programs, including the owner-operator LMIA program. And finally, the Startup Visa program, which is a different type of program altogether, although I would characterize all of these programs as entrepreneur programs, not as pure investor programs. If you are interested in a pure investor program, then as I mentioned, PACE Immigration has a very good understanding and ability to help you apply for some international programs that are pure investment programs. But right now, Canada's focus is on entrepreneur programs. So they prefer that you come here and do some kind of a business here. When you do that business, how you do that business will depend on your own personal circumstances, your own goals and objectives, and of course, on the immigration program that you choose to apply under. So what we usually do with our clients is the first thing we do is we sit down, we talk to you, we get an understanding of what your needs are. How much time do you want to spend in Canada? How much money do you want to invest? What type of business would you like to do? When do you want to do your business? Do you want to do your business right away? How quickly do you want to be in Canada? Where do you want to live in Canada? Those are all questions that we will need to ask you before we can recommend a program for you. So like I mentioned, the advantage of the Canadian programs right now, even though we don't have those pure investor programs, is that we can usually talk to you and find a program that's suitable for you because we do have that very wide array and of programs, diverse program selection. Okay, so I mentioned three types of entrepreneur programs. The first programs are the work permit programs. Okay, so these are work permits for business owners or managers. Normally those programs would require some kind of business in Canada before you begin the application process. Okay, so these are really for people who are very serious about doing a specific kind of business in Canada. They're work permit programs. So if you come in under one of these programs, you can see at the bottom, I've got the key programs here are the owner-operator LMIA program and the intercompany transferee program. If you come in under one of these programs, you're not coming in as a permanent resident or a citizen of Canada, you're coming in on a work permit. Okay, so a lot of people kind of discount these programs at the outset. They say, I'm not interested in a work permit. I want permanent residence for my family, for my children. Actually, there's an option under these programs. Once you're here on a work permit, it becomes much easier to apply for immigration under the Express Entry program or under one of the other permanent resident programs. So a lot of people will use these work permit programs as a first step to get their foot in the door in Canada. And then once they have their foot in the door, then they're able to apply for permanent residence under another program. The advantages of these programs, they're relatively fast. Okay, if you want to get into Canada quickly, if you want to get your permanent residence quickly, these are maybe the fastest way to do it. Okay, the disadvantages, of course, are that it's not a direct permanent resident program. You come in on a work permit and there's no guarantee that you'll qualify for permanent residence. There's also an element of risk to these programs because, as I mentioned at the beginning, normally these programs require some kind of business in Canada before you even begin the application process for your work permit and for your immigration. And like I said, even if you do get that work permit, the first step of the program, then there's no guarantee that you'll be able to get that permanent residence. So I would say that they are inherently risky programs, but a lot of people prefer to come in this way because of the flexibility and because of the speed. Another type of program that I mentioned briefly before were the provincial entrepreneur programs. So these are the programs that are run by the provinces, not by the federal government. The advantage here is that there's a lot of different types of programs because Canada, you can see the map there. We have 10 provinces and 3 territories, and every province or territory has their own type of program. The requirements are different for every province or territory. So sometimes you have a very specific idea about what you'd like to do, where you'd like to live. Maybe we can use one of these programs to fit you in and find a really suitable way for you to come to Canada. The other advantage of these programs is these are permanent residence programs, even though they're 2-step programs for the most part. Okay, you're going to have to come here on a work permit first, set up your business here, and then apply for a permanent residence, but it's all part of the same program. It's all part of the same application process or flow or procedure. So, when you sign up for these programs, you're signing up for a permanent residence program at the outset, even though the first step in these programs is generally not permanent residence, it's usually a work permit. Okay, so a little bit different from the work permit specific programs that I mentioned a minute ago. And of course, the key programs here that you may have heard of, the New Brunswick program, Nova Scotia, Ontario, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, BC. Okay, there are other ones as well. Those are probably the main ones though. Okay, and just finally, before I finish on these programs, the disadvantage really here is that the requirements tend to be very specific, I would say. A lot of specific requirements that are different for every province that you're going to have to meet. And the processing times tend to be a little bit slower for these programs. Not as slow as the investor programs that I mentioned at the outset, but relatively slow compared to the other entrepreneur programs that I'm discussing today. And the last program that I would like to mention is the Startup Visa program. This is a really unique program. It started in 2013. Okay, the Startup Visa program is really to attract innovative businesses to Canada that can create jobs for Canadians and can compete on a global scale. But I think the key requirement here is innovation. Okay, they want businesses that are innovative and are something different. Okay, they want the next Uber or the next Amazon or the next Spotify or whatever to come to Canada and set up shop here as opposed to in their home country. Okay, so the emphasis here is not on how much money you're spending, it's on your idea. Okay, so the requirements, there are language requirements for the Startup Visa program. There's some basic net worth requirements, very, very reasonable. You just need to show you have enough money to settle. You need to have a qualifying business. Most importantly for this program, because it's not an investment program, you don't need to invest any of your money yourself. You need to secure cooperation from what we call a designated organization. Okay, those are business incubators, venture capital funds, or angel investors here in Canada. You have to get one of those groups to agree to support your innovative business idea. That's really the key requirement of the Startup Visa program. But importantly, the program itself has no investment requirement, no age, education, or management experience requirement. Okay, and then the last thing that I would like to talk about very briefly is permanent residence. What does that mean? Because a lot of the programs that you're going to be learning about today are citizenship programs. Okay, so you apply. If you're successful, you immediately become a citizen of your destination country. Examples are the Antigua program, the St. Kitts program, Cyprus, Malta, programs around the world where you can become a citizen directly. Canada is not a citizenship program. So if you apply for Canadian immigration and you are successful, then you will be a permanent resident. You get what we call a maple leaf card. Okay, this is similar to a US green card. Okay, but what I really want to emphasize today is that permanent residence and citizenship are very, very similar, almost the same. Okay, so a lot of countries that have permanent residence programs, you're not the same class or same category of permanent resident, depending on how you came into the country. Canada, we only have one type of permanent residence. There's no conditional permanent residence. It's completely unconditional. So for example, as some of the business programs, the entrepreneur programs that I mentioned, the startup visa program, for example, if you come into Canada under the startup visa program or one of these other entrepreneur programs, and your business is unsuccessful, or you're unable to follow through on your business plan the way you originally anticipated, it's going to be unfortunate for you on the business side, but on the immigration side, it will not have an impact on your permanent residence. So in other words, once you are a permanent resident of Canada, it is permanent, okay? Permanent residence, okay? So as long as you stay in Canada for 2 years in any 5-year period, you will be able to maintain your permanent residence. Okay, and the other thing that I want to emphasize here is that permanent residence in Canada has almost all the same rights, obligations, and benefits as Canadian citizenship. Okay, so a lot of people will tell you, well, don't bother with the Canadian program. It's only permanent residence. Come to our program. It's a citizenship program. I'm a big fan of the citizenship programs. I love the Caribbean programs. I think they're fantastic option for our clients and for clients across the globe. Okay, we don't just sell one program. Okay, that would be like an auto dealership only having one kind of car or one make of car. Okay, you try to have different products for different clients based on their needs and their expectations, and we do the same thing. So we love the citizenship programs. Okay, but the Canadian Permanent Residence Program, I just want to emphasize the fact that it's not a citizenship program doesn't mean that I would say it's necessarily less valuable, because as a permanent resident, you'll be entitled to a number of different benefits: universal health care, welfare, retirement benefits, the same rights and freedoms as Canadian citizens, free education. The only differences here obviously are voting rights and the Canadian passport. If you want the Canadian passport, you need to get a citizenship. Okay, which isn't really that difficult. Okay, and this tells you how you can become a citizen of Canada. The federal government, the current government, the Liberal government, changed the requirements a little bit. They changed it back to 3 years. Okay, so you only need to be a permanent resident in Canada, living in Canada for 3 years before you're eligible for citizenship. Okay, so it's a fairly straightforward requirement. There are some very basic language requirements and requirements regarding a basic knowledge of Canada, but those requirements are relatively, I would say, straightforward. The main requirement here is the requirement to be in Canada for 3 years. Okay, so I'm just going to wrap up. I just want to leave this up for a minute. Contact information. There's our head office in Toronto. But like I said, I mean, don't be shy about contacting us to find out the next time we will be in Africa. Unfortunately, we're not able to travel to Africa as frequently as we did in the past because of the pandemic and the travel restrictions that are currently in place. But we hope to be able to go back to normal soon. And normal for us is traveling to Africa a number of times every year. Currently, my colleague Marwa is in Egypt. She's in Africa. My other colleague Rachel, who I mentioned, travels to Nigeria normally, I'd say about 3 times a year, and she usually stays there for a fairly extended period of time. So if you would like to see us in Africa, then shoot us an email and we'll let you know when we'll be there next, hopefully soon. You've got all our email addresses up there. That's me at the top. R. Brown is Rachel. That's our Nigerian lawyer. Marwa is our Egyptian immigration consultant. And Andy Semichuk, last but not least, is our US lawyer. And I've also got the link to our website there. Say thank you to everybody for taking the time to listen to my presentation. Canadian immigration is huge and complex with hundreds of different programs. Of course, I don't have time to discuss all of those programs today. I only had time to really just brush the surface. But if you would like to learn more about Canadian immigration, then please don't hesitate to contact us either by phone, email, even fax. You can contact us anytime. And we will be at our booth here at the Virtual Expo throughout the 2 days. If you would like to come and visit